Joy or happiness, success or failure, peace or dismay. The foundations of our life rest on the words we receive. A word of hope and guidance, translated from the Temple of Solomon in Brazil. You are listening to A Word of Faith with Bishop Macedo.
Hello, my friends. May God bless you all and make each one of you who believe in Him the blessing itself, the fountain of life, the fountain of living water, the fountain of light. That is the desire of God for each one of us. God, who is spirit and truth, the creator of heaven and earth, the Father of eternity, the only one who is worthy of all the honor, all the glory, all the praise. He, dear listener, wants to make of your body His dwelling place, so that through you, let there be light wherever you go. Through you, let there be life wherever you go. God wants to do that in your life. See what Jesus said, His invitation, His will. Let's read here Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavily laden, and I will give you rest. So when they are tired, oppressed, they seek God. And He doesn't need you to feel Him, to touch Him, because God is a spirit. God is not an image of wood, of stone, of gold. God is a spirit. And because He is a spirit, He is in everywhere, in all places in this universe, including there where you are. But then you ask, well, but if God exists, if He can see me, He can see my situation, why He doesn't solve my problem? Isn't it? That is a question that many people ask. And they don't believe in God because they think, if God exists, I wouldn't be suffering so much. But the truth, dear listener, is that you who are a father, you who are a mother, you know that when your son becomes older and he doesn't want to hear your advices, there is nothing that you can do for him. For example, if your daughter, your son is involved in drugs, they are using drugs, then they go to use the drugs, and you can have all the money in this world. With this money, can you take out of his mind the desire to use drugs? No, you can't. How can you help a son who is in drugs? How? You may ask, how can I do that? There is only one way. When your son knocks your door and say, Mom, Daddy, help me. Only when the son comes and asks for help is that you can do something. And that is the reality. I experienced a case of a mother who was suffering so much because of her son being there involved with drugs. She bought a flat that was with a view to that hostile place, and she bought the binocular, and then she started looking at her son and, see what he was doing. But she couldn't do anything. And I see God that way. God sees everything. He's not with a binocular looking at you. He is with you, but he only can interfere in your life with your permission. When you show a little bit of faith and say, if you exist, help me, do something for me. When you take an action like that, which is faith, then immediately God comes running in your direction and he comes to bring you the answer. But it's necessary for you to cry out, for you to seek him. You have asked so many people, isn't it? You have asked so many favors. You humiliate yourself before so many people and nobody helped you, isn't it? Nobody helped you because you were in their sight a lost case. But you are not a lost case to God. God is a spirit. God is a spirit. And from the moment that we call him, from the moment that we call upon his name, then he turns to us and he comes to help us with our needs. Jesus said, come to me. Come to me. I'm here, but you have to come to me so I can help you. All of you who labor. So you can be Muslim, Catholic, spiritualist. You can be believer or unbeliever. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be a man, a woman, homosexual, a thief, corrupt, unfair. You can be whoever you are. You can be whoever you are. But if you turn yourself to God, who is spirit, who sees your situation, then he will stretch out his hands to you. You only need to ask help. That was what happened with Jesus. He never turned his back on those who sought him. But those who didn't, of course, they could not be helped. Because he said already, we are the one that needs to go to him. Though he's present and he's watching our suffering, he allows that suffering so that we can become thirsty to cry out for help. And when we do so, there he is to give rest to those who are tired and suffering. Understand that. We'll see in these testimonies that we are going to watch now. Nobody deserves anything from God, but from the moment that you show faith, that is enough for him to come and change your situation. Let's see now the testimonies that show how God works.
Hi, my name is Crystal. And what had happened was, at the beginning of last year, my brother received a letter from the Home Office stating that they've rejected his application for further leave to remain. And the reason that had been is because my brother he's not a law-abiding citizen, so he'd gotten himself into some trouble with the law. He was back and forth in and out of just getting himself into loads of trouble. So that's the reason why they refused him. But me and my mom had been coming to church for a while and we've been praying for him. And so when this news came in, we said to ourselves, all of this time that we've spent in church, every prayer that we've made, it can't be in vain, because if he goes back to our country, then there's no one there to support him. There's no one there to help him. It's going to be even harder to fight for him now that he's going to be further away from us. So we cried out to God. We said, God, this isn't fair. All this fighting that we've done, and this is what's going to happen. This can't be the end result. And so we took that to God and we determined that we'd fight for him, we'd help him. So what we began to do is we used our faith. So we used our faith praying and also with purposes. In every step of the way, we also made it a priority to involve God. So before we did anything, before we spoke to a lawyer, before we phoned or make phone calls, we would pray and ask God, speak to us, show us what to do. How can we do it? How can we go about, doing this in the right way to get the right results? So much so that the lawyer that we had initially had an idea to use They demanded more money. We ended up going to court without a lawyer. And so even more than ever, we said, God, really work with us, because look at our situation. We're at a loss. They're right in wanting him to leave the country because of his past. But God, you know our faith. You know what would happen to him if he was to be deported. And so that's what we took to God. We took our faith and we took our sacrifice on the altar. And when the day of the court case had come, of the hearing, the judge had initially postponed the time that we were supposed to go in. And when we had eventually got in, he said to us that at 10 o'clock that morning, when we were supposed to be seen, the law had actually changed, and it had changed in our favor. So it basically meant that we didn't have to have a trial, that everything that the Home Office was presented against my brother, the new law that had been passed just 10 o'clock that morning, it didn't mean anything. So the whole trial was basically thrown out and he was given the victory. This was such an amazing result. We didn't expect anything like this. We had gone totally unprepared, not knowing what to do, but trusting in God, and he really delivered. He surpassed anything that we could have imagined. He made our ways really, really clear, and we are so grateful. And even my brother, he was so grateful. Even the time leading up to the trial, he had changed so much. His behavior changed, because he saw us not just as people who went to the church. We were really fighting for him. We put our strength. We were there, doing the documents because we didn't have a lawyer to prepare the documents or evidence. We were really giving our efforts. And I believe he saw that and God touched his heart. So when he went in that courtroom, he didn't go in as the same person. He went in as someone different. His mind has changed, that his attitude had changed, his attitude towards his family. Even up until today, we are a different people. We speak on, in a level, in a way that we've never spoken before. God has really used that situation to make my family what it never was before. We are gone to a new level, and it's all thanks to God and the campaigns of faith that we did and our prayers. Everything coupled together made this amazing results possible.
Hello, my name is Donna Jacques Gordon, and though I've been in the church for a while, and you get taught whilst you're in the church to use your faith, at times I didn't use my faith how I should have done. So when I did get sick, I didn't utilize all that I could, but over a period of time I began to use my faith. I ended up with an infection in my lungs, and I had pneumonia, so I was admitted to hospital. And in that time, I was very distressed, very withdrawn. I kind of gave up on myself. And it always comes back to the teachings that you learn in the church. Use your faith, don't give up, put God to the test, all these things. So I started to do that in my sick bed. I'd get up out of the bed even though I couldn't, and I'd pray, and I'd ask God for his help and his guidance. And thankfully, my family got in contact with the church, who then brought in the patient care group who comes to the hospitals and visit, and they prayed for me and brought in blessed water and things like that. So over a period of time, I was able to come out of hospital. But during my recovery, I was in and out of hospital because I'd relapsed. And I really do believe that's because my faith went down, and then it would come back up, and then my faith would go down. But because I wasn't in the presence of God all the time, I was battling against myself. But it came to a head one day when I just couldn't take no more, and I just said, you know what, Lord, it's either I live or I die, because if I don't get over this sickness, then, how can I glorify your name? Anyway, after a long period of time, probably a few months of going in and out of hospital, the doctor's telling me you're getting better, but we're not going to stop the treatment. You need more treatment. You need an operation. I then found out that I had an infection in my eye, and the doctors were adamant that they're going to operate on my eye. So after a long period of time coming to the church, praying, asking the pastors to pray for me, speaking to assistants, getting assistants' prayers, everything, all that I could think to do, as well as myself using my own faith, praying, waking up at certain times in the night, anointing my eye, I still had to have the operation. I had the operation, and that was in August last year. About 2 weeks ago, I went for my eyes to get tested again, and they said that the tear in my eye has come back through the sickness that I had, and what they're going to need to do is to operate my eye again. It's a possibility that I could lose my sight. And everything that happened up until that moment, it was just so fantastic because I knew that God was in control. Until when I went to the appointment and they checked my eyes and they said there's nothing wrong with my eyes, I've got 20/20 vision. So it was a reversal of what they had first said. So I would definitely say to people, do not give up on Christ. Do not give up on God. Don't stop praying. Don't stop believing. Even if you're in the darkest day, sometimes you're really down and out and you can't, do this, or you don't want to do that. You don't want to go to church. You don't feel like, do it. Just still do it. Still persevere. Don't give up on God, because God will never give up on you, and he will give you what you're asking for eventually.
You are tuned into
Liberty Radio. Radio that sets you free.
I know it's all you've got to just be strong. And it's a fight just to keep it together. I know you think that you are too far gone, but hope is never lost. Hope is never lost. Hold on, don't let go. Hey, hold on, don't let go. Just stay one step closer. Put one foot in front of the other. You'll get through this. Just follow the light in the darkness. You're gonna be okay. I know your heart is heavy from those nights, but just remember that you are a fighter, a fighter. You never know just what tomorrow holds, and you're stronger than you know. You're stronger than you know. Hold on, don't let go. Hey, hold on, don't let go. Just stay one step closer. One foot in front of the other. You'll get through this. Just follow the light in the darkness. One step closer. One foot in front of the other. You'll get through this. Just follow the light in the darkness. You're gonna be okay. And when the night is closing, don't give up and don't give in. This won't last. It's not the end. It's not the end. You're gonna be okay. When the night is closing in, don't give up and don't give in. This won't last. It's not the end. It's not the end. You're gonna be okay.
Joy or happiness, success or failure, peace or dismay. The foundations of our life rest on the words we receive. A word of hope and guidance, translated from the Temple of Solomon in Brazil. You are listening to A Word of Faith with Bishop Macedo.
Has this program been beneficial to you? Do you enjoy listening to the show? Help us to keep it running by sponsoring us. There are two ways you can do this. you can log on to uckg.org/donation and select media sponsors to make an immediate contribution. Or you can sign the media sponsorship form, supporting us with as little as £1.99 per month. To receive this form, you can call our 24-hour helpline on 0207 686 6000. You can also visit any of the UCKG branches in the UK or request it by sending an email to sponsors@uckg.org. Your help will be much appreciated and will ensure that many others will continue to benefit from listening to the programmes.